Okay, I can hear the groans already. I know when I tell people how important sleep is to weight loss, that it's usually a bit of a like, oh, we knew that before. People are hoping that I'm going to tell them about some sort of miracle food or miracle workout program or something that they can take. But just give me 5 minutes of your time, let me explain it, and let me give you this 3-2-1 system that you can actually try tonight and just see how that works for you and how it can impact sleep. Sleep has such a significant impact on your weight, and that it's almost it's undervalued. I mean, we don't think about it that much. It's just one of those things. Sleep, yeah, I know. I get bad quality sleep. There's nothing I can do about it. But poor quality and duration of sleep has been consistently in research associated with weight gain. And before I tell you the 3-2-1 system, because I do not want to talk too much in this video, I want this to be quick. I want you to just go away with this system and be able to implement it quickly. But very briefly, why? Poor quality sleep has been shown to increase the brain's need for energy-dense foods. It alters our olfactory system, which is our sense of smell, and the response that our brain, the response to signals that our brain receives to make us crave energy-dense foods. And what that essentially means is, if you have a bad night's sleep, the next day you overeat, because you will find it much harder to have willpower, and you will find it much harder to resist. Your appetite will be bigger. Full stop. Your appetite will be larger and you'll crave more of the wrong kind of foods. The other thing about poor quality sleep is that it does have a hormonal response. Poor sleep is associated with increased insulin sensitivity, leptin sensitivity, and stress hormones, all of which are long-term contributors to being overweight and obese. I don't want to get too much into the science behind that. Poor sleep is associated with weight gain. What I really want to do is implement or give you advice on how to implement what I call this 3-2-1 system, which it worked for me to a certain degree. I mean, I have young kids and sleep is not something that comes easy when you have young children and if you're a night shift worker and things like that. And I know that's hard, and you have to just kind of do what you can to mimic the best conditions if you have that circumstance. But if you can, try this. So as a caveat before 3-2-1, late caffeine is a no-no, and it doesn't matter if you are I can still have a shot of espresso right before I hop into bed. I don't know how people do that, but I can have a shot of espresso, double shot of espresso right before I head into bed, and I sleep fine. Just try sleeping without the espresso, because you might think you sleep fine, but you might sleep way better. So caffeine, you want to limit it to at least 10 hours before bed, your last one, because it has a relatively long half-life. And what we don't also consider is that if you have one cup of coffee on top of another cup of coffee, if you have one cup of coffee and then another one a couple of hours later and another one a couple of hours later, and your last one's around 2 o'clock, and you might think, oh, this is like 8-9 hours before I sleep, it's fine. But the build-up of caffeine in your system means that by the time the half-life of 3 cups of coffee, by the time you get to 10 p.m., that is actually about the equivalent of having a cup of coffee right before bed. So you don't want that much caffeine in your system. So try and limit the amount of coffee and how late you take it. So no more than 2 cups of coffee, and try and limit it before around 10 hours before you sleep. That's a separate thing. Now, the 3-2-1 system is very simply this. 3 hours before bed, you stop eating. 2 hours before bed, you stop drinking all liquids. And 1 hour before bed, you stop looking at any blue light, which is light that comes from your phone, your computer, your TV. Very briefly, let me explain. The reason why we want to stop eating 3 hours before bed is we want to reach a nice balance of not being so full and having food in our stomach that our body is going to be actively working to digest that food when we should be getting into a restful night's sleep. But we also don't want to be starving. So we don't want to be so hungry that we can't get to sleep. And your tummy's rumbling and you're there thinking about food, and you have a restless night's sleep because you just haven't got a good amount of nutrients and calories in your body. So 3 hours is a good balance. So 3 hours before bed, we stop eating, we allow our body to digest, we've had enough food before bed, and then we get into bed. 2 hours before we stop liquids. Why? Very simply because you do not want to be waking up in the night to pee. If you need to wake up and go to the toilet in the middle of the night, you're going to be interrupting your sleep. And whilst you might be one of those people that can run to the toilet, kind of still half asleep, go to the toilet, get back into bed and go straight back to sleep, it's still disrupting your sleep. You want a full night's sleep in bed. So 2 hours before bed, we stop the liquids. So that should be enough time to sort of be able to empty your bladder before you sleep, and hopefully, unless you have sort of medical conditions that mean that you have to keep going to the toilet, you should be able to get a full night's sleep without needing to go to the toilet for a break. And then 1 hour, and this is the most important, I'm going to spend the longest on it, 1 hour before bed, ideally an hour and a half, you want to stop blue light. Blue light suppresses a hormone in our body called melatonin. Melatonin is our body's natural circadian rhythm, which is like the rhythm that we use to sleep with the sunlight. Melatonin is our body's natural way of following that cycle. So when it gets dark, when it gets late in the evening, your body starts naturally secreting melatonin. This prepares you for sleep. It does physical things to you, like, with the temperature and blood pressure, which I won't get into, but it prepares you for sleep. It makes you sleepy, makes you tired. You have a good quality sleep, and in the morning when the sun starts coming up, and I know you might be in different areas of the world where might not be the case all the time, especially in winter, but generally as the sun comes up or in the morning, the melatonin levels decrease, and the body then reverses the process and you start waking up. In fact, melatonin is used by people as a supplement to help with sleep. It's so important that we don't suppress that melatonin, because we are shooting ourselves in the foot. If you do 3 and you do 2, so you do the food and the drink, but you don't focus on the melatonin part, the blue light, you might as well, there's no point doing the 3 and 2 bit. Blue light is the biggest suppressor of melatonin. So your screens, your phones, your laptop computers, your TVs, they all secrete blue light, which suppresses melatonin. So and we all do it, like it's such a common thing to be on your phone scrolling Instagram or texting or WhatsApp or whatever, right as you go to sleep. You are just suppressing your melatonin. You're suppressing your body's natural ability to be tired and have a good and restful night's sleep, and you want to stop that. Now, if you stop 1 hour before bed, you're allowing your body to naturally start secreting that melatonin and get you ready for a restful night's sleep. A lot of people are like, what the hell do I do for an hour and a half before bed? Anything. Read a book, dim the lights, chat to somebody, play a board game. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sleepy activity. It just has to be away from blue light. So as long as you're not looking at blue light, it doesn't really matter. But if you can obviously mimic conditions which are relaxing, even better. But you can listen to music, you can dim the lights down, you can read a book, you can talk to your partner, you can play a board game, whatever. It's just, you don't want to be looking at your phones. And also, if you're looking at your phone, you're adding a stressful element to it as well. You're checking emails, or people are messaging you, and you can add to your stress levels. Side note. But that's the 3-2-1 method. Now, last thing before I finish up, when you implement this the first night, it is likely to not work. You will do this, and an hour before bed you will turn all the phones and laptops and everything off. You're going to get into bed, pick a time to get into bed, and obviously use the 3-2-1 before that time, and ideally a good 7-8 hours at least before you're meant to wake up. You're going to get into bed at that time, and you're not going to fall asleep straight away, and that is normal. It takes a little time. If you don't fall asleep straight away, it doesn't matter. That first night, let it be rubbish. Wake up at the same time anyway, and the following night you do the same thing. I guarantee you, by the second or third night, when you turn off all that stuff, 3-2-1, you've turned all of the stuff off, about half an hour before the time that you've allocated to go to sleep, you're going to start feeling tired. It happened to me. You're going to feel tired, your eyes are going to start feeling a bit heavy, you're going to start yawning, and you're going to get into bed and you're going to fall asleep. And the hardest part with this isn't getting it to work, it's keeping it up. And that's my problem as well. I find it hard to keep up. It is really hard to do this, because it's easy to lose track of time, or eat late, or drink late, or look at your phone. That's the hardest one. Look at your phone or watch TV right before bed. But if you are struggling with weight, where you can, try this. At least pick out a period of time, like a couple of weeks, to really give it a good go. Try and get a good night's sleep. And alongside my other videos, which you can look at to implement the other side of weight loss, the nutritional side and diet, lifestyle, all that stuff, but you should be able to see that this can make a drastic difference to your weight loss efforts. So hopefully it works for you. Give it a go. Let me know in the comments how it goes, and I'll see you all very soon.